What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster here on the live stream on this beautiful Monday night, September 26th, 2022. It is about 8:06 p.m. California time. Latest quake out there on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.4 up there in Alaska. It always seems to be the latest quake, having some nice microquake activity up there today. Let's go ahead and check out the activity ramping up around the globe here, or as far as the flat scale model goes. Guys see any major movement here? Most recent activity looks to be a 2.7 there in the Tehachapi area of California. That's going to sit north of the Garlock Fault shear zone, off of the White Wolf Fault zone, kind of in the mountain ranges right there, kind of keyed up a little bit outside of Bakersfield. 2.7 at 2.6 kilometers. A little activity up north as well, although this movement here was from earlier this morning time frame and earlier this afternoon as well. We haven't really seen too much activity in the terms of 2.5 and above throughout the west coast. We'll start up here into the Pacific Northwest. Some movement right off the Devil's Mountain Fault, kind of the eastern section here. This area has seen a little bit of swarming over the past couple months here. It does extend across the Oak Harbor area into Victoria, BC region. That's a pretty dangerous fault zone up there. Some movement down into the Mount St. Helens area as well, just some small microquakes. There's activity there in Northern California. Looking at the rest of the map as we move down south here, looks like there's a little bit of uptick here. Again, right around where that 2.7 struck just a short time ago. Seen some microquake activity in a little linear fashion up here north of the Garlock Fault shear zone. Here on the map, they got a couple different sections here that kind of parallel with the Garlock Fault shear zone. Doesn't look like it connects to, as far as like connecting the dots on this fault system here on the map, but it seems as though the pressure is hitting these fault systems in this type of angle here across the region of Southern California. And that could be a sign of quite a bit of stress out there up against the Garlock Fault shear zone. We haven't really seen too much activity specifically on it, but no doubt that's where it's building up. The San Andreas Fault section here, the southern end, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot of movement on it today, which is probably good news, right? No major swarming to take note of. Movement along the San Jacinto Fault zone, though. Quite a few microquakes kicking up there. Again, no major swarming kicking up at all down in the Southern Cal area. Out here around the Rainbow Mountain Fault Zone. Is that oh, that's where these colored rocks are. I remember seeing that area out there. A little 1.1 kicking up there around the Fallon Range. Ooh, pretty shallow earthquake as well, 0.7. Let's see, a little activity way up north. I missed this one way up here by Elmo, Montana. I've never heard of it. Near the Flathead Lake area, it looks like, a 2.9 at 12 kilometers. Yellowstone National Park, a couple earthquakes listed up here on the map. They got 6 of them showing up here across the Yellowstone supervolcano. Let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone seismographs. Again, I'm still getting that weird error, and I'm not for sure why. It's possible their certificates could have been expired. I don't know, but I've visited this site for many, many years, and as far as I know, I've never had any issues. Let's see, 926, right? That is the most recent map here, showing looks like quite a few microquakes here, and these little spikes over the last few hours. So the swarming is still continuing now into the Yellowstone area. Some of these other maps not functioning, and I'm not for sure why, but looks like a little bit of activity kicking up there at Yellowstone. Some small microquakes. Oklahoma, Texas, pretty quiet. Eastern portion of the country as well. Florida, we're going to check on Hurricane Ian here in a little bit. Some movement outside of the Puerto Rico area, but man, look at this. This is a little odd here. This is the all magnitudes, but we're not seeing anything at all around the Puerto Rico area. And this is a little odd because we've seen at least a couple, right? Every day, if not between a couple up to 30 or 40 or 50 earthquakes around this area Puerto Rico. I'll show you guys the last 30 days of all magnitudes. You'll see what I'm talking about. The little swarm out here that's been ongoing for quite a while, quite a few months, has just come to a complete stop, which is odd. So I've never seen it do that. I don't know if they're maybe not reporting it. It is Monday, but nothing's coming up. We got a 3.1 and a 2.6 up around the Puerto Rico Trench area, but it's just a little odd seeing that. One earthquake outside of the Mexico area, Buenos Aires, a 4.1. Looks like it's just off the coast there. 70.7 kilometers deep into the Middle America Trench. A little spotty activity from north around Ecuador down to the south of the South America region, Chile area. Aside from that, not a whole lot of movement there in the South America region. Been watching a swarm of activity out here around the Wreck Janes Ridge. Coming up on 20 earthquakes now. That's a pretty good number. And these are just the, I'm sure, the 4.0 and above level. That's a pretty good cluster of quakes out there. So far, I believe we've had a 5.7, the largest in that cluster. Not 100% certain what's going on out there, but it's been a while since we've seen any swarming like this around a divergent boundary. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Over here further east, activity outside of the, looks like Afghanistan and northern India area. Movement throughout the Indonesia region and Solomon Islands. Most of this from earlier this morning time frame. Some older activity, including a 4.4. Look at that timestamp right there. I don't know. It always does that to me. Crazy. Latest quake shows a 4.7 on the Java Trench. Looks like about 10 kilometers. New Zealand, we'll have to key up the EMSC model, which we're going to go ahead and do right now just to keep an eye on things and see what we got down there in New Zealand. Looks like a few earthquakes listed up here on their map. Why the USGS doesn't show this, I don't know. There's a 4.6 that should easily, and a 4.0. Some of these quakes should be listed right up on the USGS map. So a little bit of an increase in activity here down from, looks like from about the Kermadec Trench, Hikurangi subduction zone, all the way down here to the southern portion of the New Zealand area, showing a little bit of heightened activity today. There's movement along the Middle America Trench and a couple other 4s in there as well. USGS not listing. All right, let's see what else we got here for the Tremor map tonight. Kind of picked up 411 epicenters. That's a pretty big jump from yesterday's. Yesterday had 0 epicenters. Let me see here, though. Let me see what they got. Yeah, 0 epicenters. And then the days prior, a couple weeks prior, we had anywhere from about 150 to 300, 350 epicenters of tremor each day over the past 2 weeks or so. Except for yesterday, quiet. Today, kicked back up to a big number, 411. Mostly confined here to the Oregon and southern Washington, getting in on a little bit of it as well. Looks like up here around the BC ranges, or the Vancouver Island range, I should say, seeing a little bit of uptick as well. But that's a pretty good number. All right, let's go ahead and check out the Hurricane Ian. This thing's growing, and it's finally got an eyeball on it. Look at that eye. You guys see that? Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit so you guys can kind of see what I'm getting at. It's developing its eyeball here within the last hour or so. This thing is really amplified and really picked up wind speed. It is expected to be a Category 4 soon. It is currently sitting at a Category 2 level at sustained wind speeds of 105 miles per hour. Pressure 2841 and dropping, I'm sure. Currently sitting well southwest of Havana, around the Cuba area. Tomorrow, around the looks like 11 o'clock time frame, this should be a Category 4 hurricane. Pretty strong hurricane, and it will sit here, spin and eat up all this warm Gulf moisture as it heads towards the Tampa area. And right now it still looks like we're looking at a dead, a pretty good hit here for the Tampa region. But it will tone down a little bit before it reaches the Tampa area. But man, Category 4, it looks like for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday the 29th, they're 11. Looks like things are going to get rather interesting there, as far as the hurricane status goes. Here, we'll go ahead and go to Wednesday. Look at this. Now, this here has changed a little bit. See, these models are always changing. Hurricanes are an unpredictable entity, let me tell you. Sometimes they can go as planned, far as their forecasted path goes. Many different computer models tend to sometimes accurately predict the hurricanes, but then at times we get these weird wobbles and these weird directions that these things are taken. And this is a lot more inland than what we've seen this morning time frame. Let me go back here a little bit to about this is Wednesday the 28th, 1 a.m. Now, see, already it's more towards the eastern side, eastern side of that cone of uncertainty. As far as this forecast goes, this is the NOAA, NOAA, the ECMWF model. Looks like has that a little bit more offshore, but at the current moment here, the NOAA model, the weather model, shows that more closer here inland. And this is the latest update as well. Let me go ahead and put this into motion here a little bit and see where we're at. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Tampa, here's Northport, Sarasota. Tampa sits just up here. 75 degrees on that day. Let's go ahead and kick this thing up here a little bit. Wow. So this model for Wednesday at 3 p.m. shows a direct hit just south of Tampa at the Sarasota area, Venice, Northport area. And that's a little, wow, look at that. That is crazy. This is way different, folks. I'm just, like I say, I'm just now looking at this weather model as I'm showing it to you guys. The last weather model I seen was from this morning time frame, and it was not like this. This is what Windy here, this Windy app is kind of forecasting, but it's still within that cone of uncertainty, but more further to the east here. Let's check out the GFS model. That's an ECMWF, the GFS model now. Let's bring this up a little bit. This one here is showing more offshore. You guys see that? And then, but it is making a pretty sudden turn. Look at that. Look at that turn. This is what I'm talking about here. Here's Wednesday at 6 a.m. We go Wednesday 8 p.m. moving to the northeast, and then pretty much like a gradual eastward trend right over the Sarasota area into Tampa Bay. Ooh, that is not good. These guys could get hit pretty bad, folks. Look at that, and it's just kind of hugging up there. The main brunt of the hurricanes here with this convection. You get the south, this counterclockwise turning, right, and you get the convection highest up here around the eastern, northeastern side of the eye wall. That's where the strongest winds are, the strongest convection. And look at that. That's just going to take that right into the St. Petersburg area, Clearwater, Tampa area as a worst case scenario. And that is the GFS model for Thursday, the 29th at 3 p.m. Now, let's go back here and see where this other one takes it. Well, that one's a little off. Shows it way earlier and much further south of Tampa. You guys see that? Let's see if we can get the HRR model yet. This is a high-resolution radar imagery, but I don't think it's going to let us. It only goes to, well, let me zoom in here and see. Kind of looks like it's letting us view that. So there's Tuesday the 27th at 11 p.m. And the HRR model, too, looks like it wants to swing south. Notice that. But this is way south around the Cape Coral area, it looks like. South of Northport, which would put Tampa out of the way. See, a lot of inconsistencies right now with these weather reports, folks. And I think once we narrow it down, maybe tomorrow we should have a more well agreement between these weather models. I mean, forecasting weather, it's something I don't do. I'm not a weatherman, and I'm sure the weathermen are probably trying to scratch their heads on this one because a lot of these maps are just all over the place. But man, crazy. Do not like the look, though, of the ECMWF model. That paints a pretty grim picture for that region. GFS as well. That kind of takes that right into the Tampa area. All right. Again, we'll keep an eye on it and do updates as needed. Another look at the monster out there, kind of forming that eyeball there just south of the Cuba area. Havana sits up here. Again, a warm Gulf moisture up here. Florida already seeing some of the convection bands well ahead of the hurricane. This thing is going to gain strength rapidly, folks. Watch tomorrow. This time should be before this time tomorrow. Probably tomorrow morning when I do an update, we should be looking at close to a Category 4 hurricane. Again, right now, 105. Let me refresh this and see if it's jumped up any. It still shows 105 for maximum sustained wind speeds of that, and current category as a 2. Alrighty, well let's see what else we got. Space weather. We'll jump off that here. That's just not good. I see a lot of weather chasers, storm chasers heading out there. That's something I kind of experienced down there in Louisiana a couple years ago. The Lake Charles area. Actually, I was down here outside of Galveston. I think a little bit more over here. Can't remember exactly where, but I was kind of waiting out one of the hurricanes down there a couple years ago, and I just kind of wanted to experience it. But the storm surge down there is no joke. Storm surge over here for the Tampa area and the Florida region going to be incredible as well. So sometimes that's the thing that kind of creeps up, and a lot of people don't expect it. So if you're a storm chaser, weather chaser out there, make sure you guys stay safe out there. I'm sure you guys know what you're doing, but again, that storm surge can be pretty deadly. Alrighty, space weather. Let's jump over here to the solar ham site. Looks like we had a pretty good tilt here of the BZ component. It's going to be the interplanetary magnetic field. Basically, carried past Earth via the solar wind is currently tipped to the south. Notice the KP index there up around the 6. That's a G1 class storm. Really ramping up earlier. We had some aurora conditions up here. It still looks like we do have some at the higher latitudes. But it was not expected. Not expected. But when we get these tilts there in the magnetic fields, which carries the wind via the solar wind that's currently tipped south. When we get that wind speed to the south there, it kind of allows that activity to flow right in. Solar wind to flow right in and create these elevated, unexpected conditions. I mean, that's pretty good. KP index of 6. Wait, that's wouldn't that be a G2 class storm? Wow. Yeah, I think it looks like they were only forecasting a 3 to 4 KP index there. That is absolutely crazy. But again, these things can change in the blink of an eye, just like the weather can. All right, what do we got for flaring activity? Not a whole lot. Looking at the last couple days here, been pretty minimal. Only a couple C flares. They have dropped down the X flare potential there. They had that elevated for a little bit. Things just didn't look likely. I mean, things are just kind of dying off there on a couple of the sunspots. They're not super dynamically set up for producing an X flare. A little bit of growth here from this one, getting a little blue and yellow developing really close together, creating a special spark between those. That may be the only likely source. A new developing sunspot looks like around the northeastern limb that we should be watching as well in the coming days. But for now, a little bit of unexpected activity. The auroras, as far as unexpected, is always a treat, right? That would be pretty nice. One of these days I'm going to get up there and be able to see that, hopefully. It's on my bucket list. Let's see. Here's the density kicking up here, and the BZ component, tilting way south here, about 11 degrees or so, allowing that solar wind density to flow right in. About the same time when that speed kicked up and the density kicked up, that's when we had that southward tilt, allowing conditions to be favorable for the higher latitudes for the storming. All right, guys, stay safe out there. Be alert. And, of course, pay attention to local authorities and whatnot and announcements if you live out there in Florida. See a lot of people, a lot of traffic heading away from the coast. Probably a good idea, right? Definitely a smarter idea, because there's still a lot of uncertainty with it. And we'll look at it a little bit better tomorrow, see if we got a little bit better adjustment and a more defined area that the weather models are kind of agreeing upon. Alrighty, guys, stay safe, and we will chat you guys tomorrow sometime. Have a good night. We'll catch you guys a little bit later on. Peace out.